Speaking of that sweet Saudi money, we've got one coming up in less than 2 weeks, the Elimination Chamber. And Raw on Monday was all about setting up the Chamber match, which will be contested for the WWE Championship. I am aware that they have done this before, where the title itself is defended inside the Chamber. I know Daniel Bryan, I think, did it a couple of times. But I think it would have been better to use this match as a way to determine who would be challenging for the WWE title at WrestleMania. As the Royal Rumble is to WrestleMania, so too could be the Elimination Chamber for whichever brand's title is not being defended in the main event. Brock Lesnar is headlining WrestleMania. But Brock Lesnar will also be inside the Elimination Chamber, challenging for the WWE Championship. Because, as he said on Monday night, he still wants to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, title for title. Brock has already made his choice. He will challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title. But they continue to tease the idea of champion against champion at WrestleMania, which explains why the Chamber is for the title this year. Them doing champion against champion only makes sense to me if they're unifying the titles, and it doesn't sound like they're going to do that. Based on what Paul Heyman was saying and the language he was using on SmackDown on Friday night, he used the words winner take all. Not one time in all the times they've teased this on TV has the word unify or unification been mentioned. Friday night, he specifically, 2 different times, used the words winner take all for what Brock Lesnar is asking for. Which means that we would end up with one man walking around with 2 belts like Becky Lynch did. Brocky 2 belts. I would be good with a unification. It should have happened a long time ago. Either end the brand split or have one champion that floats between shows. Brock is already going back and forth anyway between both shows. Brock Lesnar is not being pinned twice in a row on back-to-back pay-per-views. So Brock Lesnar is winning the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, someone emailed me yesterday with a stat that they saw, probably on Reddit or something, but I thought this was too good not to mention. When Brock Lesnar wins the WWE title back, he will have taken it off of every black champion to have ever held, specifically the WWE title. We're not talking World Heavyweight Big Gold, specifically the WWE Championship. He took it from The Rock. He took it from Kofi Kingston. He took it from Big E. And now he's probably going to take it from Bobby Lashley. I guess this is his way of celebrating Black History Month. He'll be making history of his own if he wins that title back in Saudi Arabia, which, again, I think is pretty much a foregone conclusion. Now, on Monday, Lashley and MVP, they were out to open the show. Lesnar came out in his gear. He was dressed for a fight. He was all smiles. He should have been out there like he was the night after WrestleMania 31, when Rollins cashed in his money in the bank, ready to murder someone. But we got jovial Brock, who said, look, I'm not mad at Lashley and MVP. I'm mad at Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. And he wanted a rematch with Lashley. Lashley had no interest in such a thing. Instead, Adam Pearce put Lesnar in the Chamber. So he didn't have to qualify because the man was screwed out of the championship. Seth Rollins was also automatically inserted into the Chamber, which doesn't quite make as much sense. AJ Styles, Matt Riddle, and Austin Theory all had to qualify in separate matches, with Theory taking the spot originally earmarked for Shane McMahon. Shane never even should have been considered for the match in the first place. You know, Austin Theory is the star on the rise who benefits by being in there with all these other big names. It kind of makes it look like he deserves to be in there. He can hang with those guys. And I have no doubt that he could hang with those guys because he's had some pretty damn good matches on TV in the last few months. I think he'll do just fine inside there. He's not going to win, but I think he'll do just fine in the Chamber. But that's the kind of person, whether it's Theory or somebody else, somebody new that they're pushing, that you should reserve at least one spot for in a match like that. They basically fell ass backwards into doing the right thing by putting Austin Theory in there. Riddle pinned Otis later on after the scooter stuff to earn a spot in the Chamber, and the final spot went to the winner of the match between AJ Styles and Rey Mysterio. And when I see Rey out there having matches like this, I have to show some appreciation and love here for Rey Mysterio. Especially after some of the hate that he got a few weeks ago when he was revealed as the cover boy for 2K22. I thought a lot of that hate was unwarranted. But I watch Rey out there in matches like this, and I sit here in awe. Just thinking about all those years ago when it felt like he was out with a knee injury every couple of months, and his career felt like it was winding down. You know, I know he went to Colombia for that stem cell therapy for his knees. A lot of wrestlers and athletes have flown down to Colombia for that bioaccelerator stem cell therapy. So, like, Nash has flown down there, DDP, Bobby Lashley, Kurt Angle, John Morrison. Whatever it is that they did for Rey, it's working. Because this guy flies around in there like he hasn't missed a beat. He's 47 years old. He's been wrestling since 1989. And not a very easy style. You know, it's you see him flying around that ring, especially when he was younger. And all the stuff that he was doing, and you think, holy shit, this guy debuted when he was, 15 years old. I used to say this guy's knees are made of glass. He was getting hurt all the time. I remember talking on this podcast about a decade ago about, Rey's got to wind things down here. He keeps getting hurt. This has got to be it for him. And then you see him out there still working at a high level, and he's been able to stay healthy, and it's incredible. Not incredible enough to win. AJ won with the Styles Clash. That now sets up Lashley, Lesnar, Rollins, Styles, Riddle, and Theory for the Elimination Chamber. That's a hell of a field. When you really look at the names that are all laid out there, it's a hell of a field for the Chamber. And there are lots of different ways that you could go with this. The favorite is Brock Lesnar, because why would he be in there if he's not winning? Right? He's already gotten screwed over once. He's already been pinned once. I cannot envision that happening again. Plus, why keep teasing this idea of winner take all if they're not doing it? When it was mentioned the first time a month or a month and a half ago, I thought it was just a one-time mention, but they kept going back to it. So why continue to mention it and tease it if you're not going to do it? Let me just say, I hate the idea of Bobby Lashley only having the championship for 3 weeks. I like Bobby Lashley as the WWE champion. I know not everybody is a fan. Some people think he's boring or whatever. I love it. I love Lashley as the WWE champion. I love the fact that it took a while, but he got to this point, the whole almighty thing, and as strong as they kept him when he had the US title, the pairing with him and MVP and the Hurt Business and everything, it finally clicked for him in this company. And he had the kind of success that he hadn't really experienced since his days in Impact when he was the champion there and he was with American Top Team and doing the stuff, ironically, with Dan Lambert. And he was doing some of his best work in Impact. And so I'm happy to see finally him being built up in this way and becoming the champion. And they just put the belt back on him. And I would rather they not just take it off him 3 weeks later. So I'm not really a fan of that idea. But if they really wanted to think outside the box, this isn't going to happen. But they wanted to think outside the box. RK Bro has been a thing now since the summer. Matt Riddle has said it was only supposed to be a one-time thing. He said the same thing about the pairing with Pete Dunne when they were the Broserweights in NXT. It was supposed to be a one-time thing, but it got over. It took off, and they ran with it. Orton was supposed to give him an RKO after one time together. He was going to drop him with an RKO, and that would have been the end of it. They would have had a match, and that would have been it. But it clicked. The people liked it. There was a certain weird chemistry between the two of them. Vince McMahon loves a lot of the goofy stuff. Clearly, he became a huge Matt Riddle fan because he started getting more television time than anybody else on the show. And so they ran with it. That started in the summer. They've been the most consistently popular act on Monday Night Raw. They're over. Riddle is in the chamber. Randy is not. What if Matt Riddle eked out a win in the Elimination Chamber? What if he won the WWE Championship? And Randy Orton grows jealous and finally drops him 1 week with an RKO to set up a title match at WrestleMania. He can't believe that this goof actually won the world title. He's tired of all the comedy. He's tired of all the bullshit. He wants his belt back. There's your setup for WrestleMania. Now, they would be playing second fiddle to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, which is why the idea of a unification appeals to me. Your world title should never play second fiddle. Ever. They did this with the World Heavyweight title. It ended up being relegated to second-class status. I'll never forget. I don't remember what year it was. Whatever year, Del Dipshit was probably the World Heavyweight Champion. So we're probably going back about a decade. But it got to a point in this brand split back then where the World Heavyweight title, the big gold belt, was being defended on Raw, which had the other championship, but it was being defended on Raw in like the opening match or second match from the top or something on Raw. It felt like another, it felt like what the FTW belt is right now in AEW, which is not a good thing. So I don't believe any world title should ever play second fiddle. The only way to fix that problem is to have one top title. That is the only way to fix that problem. But AJ Styles against Edge is the match that I want for those two at WrestleMania, and that doesn't need to be for a championship. It doesn't. So what do you want? Do you want AJ Styles winning a secondary title and doing what he did a few years ago against Nakamura at WrestleMania when they had a match in the middle of the card? Or do you finally want one unified heavyweight champion? Because I got news for you. For all the people who will counter the idea of a unification by asking, what about creating new stars? What about creating new stars? How did that work out for Big E? Huh? How did that work out for him? What did putting the title on Big E for 3 months and then taking it away from him the way that they did really do for him? I'll tell you what it did for him. Nothing. It did nothing for Big E. And now he's relegated back to tag team duty on the other show. Big E's singles push is dead. How many more of those reigns are we going to get with people that they're supposedly trying to elevate? How many more Big E's are there going to be? If they have no plans, no real plans to elevate somebody, then unifying the titles and putting it on Brock Lesnar or putting it on Roman Reigns doesn't matter. You can have a revolving door of champions, but if the writing and the booking don't support them, if the writing and the booking never changes, then guess what? Nothing really changes. This is a systemic issue in this company where they are simply either unable or unwilling to create new stars. Real stars. I'm not talking about fake stars for 6 months before they slide back down the card. Real fucking stars. Stars who aren't just going to headline WrestleMania this year, but next year. And the year after that. Big E was never headlining WrestleMania, and he very likely never will. And I know that hurts some people's feelings, but that's just the reality of the situation. If they don't believe in him, then they need to find somebody who they do believe in. Because Brock Lesnar is not going to be around all the time, and Roman Reigns is only one health scare away from putting Vince McMahon in a position that he really doesn't want to be in. I hope they see things through with Austin Theory. He is a future WrestleMania headliner for this company. But it's going to take more than one guy. I look at NXT and I see Braun Breaker as a WrestleMania headliner in the future. Carmelo Hayes is another one. Until they start believing in some people, though, this is what we're left with.